we open up our hearts as if we're inhaling and exhaling through the heart itself. Breathing in love, breathing out any tension. Breathing in peace, breathing out any concern. We allow the practice to have its way with us, knowing the power of the silence, the power of the light within. As we enter into the sacred time of stillness. Taking a deep inhale and a full exhale. We breathe into our intention to release the imprisoned splendor, the wonder within. By the power of this practice, may all beings have freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings know they are born blessed and here to be a blessing. May all beings know God as love and themselves as emanations of this love. And so it is. Namaste. Do you think it might be true that that's the most important moment we spend together each week? The moment together in the silence. That there is an activity and an intention that is collective and gorgeous that happens in that moment with those that are in this sanctuary and around the world. And that space and place in the silence is where all things happen in mind. So thank you for that practice. Imprisoned Splendor. It's an old school term from Sig Paulson, the author of How to Love Your Neighbor and Your Power to Be and other books. He is one of Unity's old school authors. And he used to actually be the spiritual leader, the minister, with his wife, Janie Paulson, of Unity Village Chapel back in the day. Imprisoned Splendor. Imprisoned Splendor. That's our role. And how do we let it out? How do we let out the imprisoned splendor? What holds you back? Are you aware of what holds you back? Have you done an inventory to figure out what your fears are or what your seeming limitations are? And are you aware of your stuff? Are we aware of our role as emanations of the Most High to express our splendor, to let it out? That's our job. That's our job. And it's not a small job. It's a lifelong work. In Old School Unity, Sig Paulson talked about something called drilling in the light. Drill in the light. And it's a practice of, guess what? What do you think it's a practice of, drilling in the light? Affirming. Has anyone seen these new videos? Well, they're not so much new, but I mean, it's kind of new for us to see them. But of parents doing a little bit of either call and response with their kids or a morning affirmation when they say affirmations to their children. I bet you 9 times out of 10, these people are not unity people, right? But they wake up with their child and they say, "You are worthy." And the child says, "I am." "You are loved." And the child says, "I am." Or the parents have a little rant. I know a couple of people that are strong in my history that raised children. One had, I think, 3 boys, and he would have an evening blessing, an evening prayer that he would always do with them. And I always said, I need you to write that down for me, because it was this really long, crazy long affirmation. But it was gorgeous. And you know what? Those kids, I'm sure, had it memorized, because he would say it every night when they went to sleep, every night. You know what I still remember? I still remember in 5th grade, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, remember that? Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, all the way through the end. I remember that because in our 5th grade program, we learned it. All of the states in alphabetical order. What if we were to drill in the light as a state of mind, at a state of being, so that in times of stress, in times of turmoil, one could take a deep breath in and call it back? Yeah? Some families use the prayer for protection. And even as adults and as siblings and as family, whenever there are times of stress and strain, they say the prayer for protection. But it is a practice in unity to use our words and to harness the power of words and how they can impact the mind. Sig Paulson, your power to be, drill in the light. The following drill is key to exercising your power to be what you are created to be. As you use the words, the course of action they describe will open in your consciousness, and eventually the drill will become almost wordless. I am the power to be. I am the power to be light. I am the power to be faith. I am the power to be will. I am the power to be understanding. I am the power to be imagination. I am the power to be enthusiasm. I am the power to be authority. I am the power to be love. I am the power to be wisdom. I am the power to be joy. I am the power to be strength. I am the power to be forgiveness. I am the power to be life. He says it will be easy for you to memorize these steps in the drill. You will soon feel the flow of energy that gives the drill power in your consciousness. The second phase in the drill follows. I am. I am light. I am faith. I am will. I am understanding. I am imagination. I am enthusiasm. I am authority. I am love. I am wisdom. I am joy. I am strength. I am forgiveness. I am life. He says you will discover for yourself the changed emphasis in this second part of the drill. The third phase follows. I am action. I am light in action. I am faith in action. I am will in action. I am understanding in action. I am imagination in action. I am enthusiasm in action. I am authority in action. I am love in action. I am wisdom in action. I am joy in action. I am strength in action. I am forgiveness in action. I am life in action. The final phase of the drill moves you to inspired action, mental, emotional, and in outer ways as well. Repeating the entire drill is sufficient. That's old school unity, drilling in the light. Breathing into the space that we affirm what we are, that we affirm our strength, that we allow our words to merge within us to the places where we may have disbelief, that we may feel disconnected from the truth, that we may be disconnected from who and whose we are, that we may feel like a limitation is there when we want to share our light or unleash our imprisoned splendor. Sig says, let your light shine. Be willing to let the will of God operate in your daily living, in your business, your profession, your work, your home, your relations with others. Be willing to let the will of God operate in your mind, heart, and body. As the divine will works its miracle of daily demonstration and resurrection, you will be readied for even greater miracles of understanding and experience. Surrender to the will of the Creator who designed and produced you for the purpose of giving self-expression to its nature of infinite good. Unleashing our imprisoned splendor. I was reading an article recently, and it's from a book, and the book is by Dr. Eliza Pressman, and it's the 5 Principles of Parenting, Your Essential Guide to Raising Good Humans. Hey, nice title, right? A guide to raising good humans. I feel a little bit like we've lowered the bar these days. You know, it's like, just good humans, that's good. If we could just settle there, good humans. But it's a good foundation, isn't it? And she says this, she says that there is a key, and it's the most overlooked skill from her research, her many, many years of research, the most overlooked skill for parents to teach their children to raise successful, grounded, happy children. And she says it's this, inner efficacy. Inner efficacy. An individual's belief in their own capacity to do what it takes to meet their goals. And she says it's often overlooked for all of the other things that we try to support children in developing, that we think they might need as they grow up. It says this, inner efficacy is an individual's belief in their own capacity to do what it takes to meet their goals. Self-esteem might say, I'm amazing. But inner efficacy says, I have what it takes to figure this out and to achieve what I set out to. She says kids with a strong sense of inner efficacy are more likely to challenge themselves and put in the effort. Rather than blaming external circumstances or some immutable lack of talent for their failures, they focus on factors that are within their control. Doesn't that sound like our unity practice? Life is about these circumstances, but what we focus on is what is in our control. I love the story Bethany shared today. It's exactly what we're talking about. Let your light shine. Bring the goodness to every experience. Look at what is in your domain, what is in your dominion, what can be shifted, and then show up to the best of your ability from that space. Letting your light shine. Is this not what we're here to teach our children? Is it what we're here to get for ourselves? I think one of the greatest things we can teach our children is that they have direct access to this inner power, this inner wisdom to God. They have direct access. That when we can spiritually look at inner efficacy, we can give them something that will help them through everything. We demonstrate that by giving it to ourselves. We demonstrate our intentions and then our abilities to grow, our abilities to shift, our abilities to adjust, our abilities to drill in the light and bring in the light, to unleash the imprisoned splendor. In order to teach it, it's incumbent upon us to model it, no? To lead, to show it. A lot of times we protect our kids from seeing any of the messiness of life, right? We sometimes just want them to feel good. We just want to make things better. Sig Paulson in How to Love Your Neighbor says, through the experiences we are now sharing, we will discover the fire of love in and for ourselves. As we take the time to awaken ourselves to it, we will discover that we live, move, and have our being in an ocean of love. We are completely surrounded, embedded in, and permeated by fields of cosmic energy, love. These fields are potent, active, vibrant, and the only reason we have missed them is that we have been too preoccupied with the surface of life. There's a little something that happens to me sometimes when as a mother of a 5-year-old, when I think of my daughter going to school, and I realize how much time she's going to spend in school, and all the lessons and the system and all of that, and how valuable time is. And I think about what's going to happen in that process. And I think, how am I going to keep this at the forefront for her? The spiritual practice. How am I going to nurture her and support her not falling asleep? I was driving the other day, and as I was driving in the car, and it's not that I don't give her screen time. There are certain days that she gets too much screen time. But I was driving the other day, and the car in front of me, it was like a vehicle with an iPad in it, right? And so I'm behind the thing, and I can see this just nonsense on the screen, just this nonsense. And I thought about the child in the car, and this is not a judgment because I've done it and I do it. But I can see this nonsense on the screen just fill in the back seat, right? And I'm thinking, that parent's probably tired. I do that when I'm tired, right? That's a moment you don't get to get back. That's a moment that their minds are filled with something. And I'm a Mr. Rogers fan. Like Mr. Rogers, he went straight to the government to try to say, like, hey, we need ethics around our children and what we're giving to them, what is being put in there. I went to a movie the other night, just last night I went to a movie, and it was an insane amount of violence. And it was a great movie. But it was unreal. And then it was a very weird movie in that they mixed like violence with like love and clouds of hearts, and so they're like almost Kung Fu Panda-ing everything. And then all this just like the new it's not so new now, but the new John Lennon song, it is new actually, but that was like, it was so beautiful with, And I'm just sitting there watching it I feel good while I'm watching it, and there's puffs of, but then things breaking and I'm like, what are we? We are so odd. We are so odd. But I'm looking at the sleepwalking, and actually the film did something to put you into this almost like altered state of waking you up. Like, now you're going to want to know what the name of the movie is, and I don't even remember. And I'm not recommending it. It's very violent, but it was good. But all those things that we put in our minds, and can we be in this space and still be awake? Can we be in this space and be present to all of it, but be most present to the Most High? Period. Kind of like you said, Bethany, when you go into that room, it's like you went into that room, right? I can see it. You went into a honky-tonk bar. Next time, call me. I'll give you my boots. But you went into that place and it was like, what do we do with our time as humans on the planet? I'm guessing was kind of in your mind. Like, wow, I live in an alternate universe. This is one thing that happens on a night. And the other thing that happens on a given night is like me reading books to my kids and going to bed. There are all these different ways to spend life on the planet. But through applying a spiritual practice, you entered into a state of non-resistance and non-judgment, acceptance and acknowledgement of the diversity of ways that we show up on this planet and in our being and in our lives. And you said to that moment, show me the beauty here. And a miracle of light unfolded. I could feel that when you shared the story. And I could feel that blessing. Do you feel that blessing for the woman that lost her husband, that went to a honky-tonk bar to dance that pain away, and instead was met with a God moment? I can feel the hairs stand up on my head. Release the imprisoned splendor. That's what we're here for. So what are some practical steps? Because unity is about universal truths, practical Christianity, practical steps to awakening and enlightenment that are known in all world religions, that are the height of all of them. It's like, what practice brings humanity to its height, releases the goodness? So let's get practical. Accountability, responsibility, mindfulness. Accountability, responsibility, mindfulness. Are we willing to demonstrate accountability? Are we willing to look at our weaknesses and put into place intentional actions that will co-create strength, co-create wisdom? So I, as a parent, anyone around a child, are you willing to look at the things you're not so good at? Do you know what they are? Do you know what the hitches in your giddy up are? Just want to keep doing that honky tonk. Do you know what they are? Do you know when you fall off the saddle? And as an elder, as someone that's nourishing a child, are you willing to be intentional about that and put something into place so that they have someone to learn from that is not struggling with that mastery? Can you put them in the midst of a miracle? Learn about your weaknesses and put intentional actions, mentorship, connections, resources into place. If you have problems with money, are you awake about that, or are you just going to pass it down? If you're awake about that, what does it look like? You may not be able to change it for yourself, but you can sure drill in the light and change your language, change your practice, and get a mentor so you can change it for the future of your child. If you have problems with money, check out your house. Does your child have 5,000 teddy bears? Or maybe every time a birthday or a holiday comes around, do you tell everyone in that family's community, in that child's community, do you say, whatever you are going to invest on giving them a gift, please cut that in half or a third, or give 10% physical and put 90% into an investment account for them, for developing a spiritual gift, for college, for their first house, their first car, whatever it is, fill in the blank. Look at what your stuff is and see how you can shift it for the future. Amen? We don't have to get it all ourselves. We don't have to know how to do it all ourselves to pass on something better. One interaction with a teacher can change a child's life forever. If I don't know how to emotionally process, emotionally regulate, how to deal with my stuff, can I get my child into a situation, a circle, a community that does? Bring them to spirit school. They will get tools. Give them a therapist. They will get tools. Sign them up for a creative expression experience in summer school, a camp, something that helps them channel those energies and learn how to be with them. We don't have to master something to help lead someone to water. If you get stuck in fear rather than faith, then look at developing the child around you. Look at developing their faith. Look at those affirmations and what can you give? If you have problems with body image and weight, look at your mouth. Stop speaking it out loud around your child. Watch yourself. Don't ever say, I am, and then put something that is not what you want to feed them around them. Because it's like a piece of cake. It is attractive, and it will be taken on, and it will be digested and metabolized. So be aware and be accountable of your I am and what we attach to that. Be awake. If you were guilted and shamed as a child, be aware of that. Get a mentor. Stand in the practice so that that does not get passed on. That's not the inheritance. As far as accountability, learn to say we're sorry. Learn to say we're sorry. Did anyone have parents who never said they're sorry? I had one that really just can't. And it's okay. It's okay now. But boy, it's easy for me to say I'm sorry. It's a practice. When you're wrong, when you make a mistake, say you're sorry. Learn how to do it in relationships. Learn how to do it at work. Learn how to do it with your children, with your grandchildren. When we don't do it, we teach them that it's okay. If you raise your voice, if you growl like a tiger at a child, go back and say, that wasn't mindful. This is what I was feeling. This is what I did. I'm working on that. This is what I would like to do instead. Not by blaming, but going, when I'm in situations when XYZ happens, which may also line up with what you were just doing, I have a hard time regulating. That's on me. Accountability. Harness the power of redos. We didn't end up in unity so that we don't use it for the future generations. A redo is taking something that happened and going back and doing a little guided meditation and doing it differently. You know, the studies show that the brain doesn't have that much distinction between something that really happened and something that we watched, right? So that movie that I was in last night, it got me. I went there, right? The child in the back seat, that if they're watching violence, you know, if they're watching anger and mistreatment, it's like it releases hormones. You know what I'm saying? It's real to the body. It's real to the mind. There are even studies showing that you could sit in that chair and close your eyes and exercise and you will receive benefits. No excuses anymore. Maybe not exactly the same benefits if you go to the gym, right? But yes, benefits. Yes. There is an imprisoned splendor that we don't tap into, that we just let it sit there and act like it doesn't exist, but we know better. Can we be accountable for that? Can we do redos? Just close your eyes with whoever it was, even in a relationship, in a marriage, whatever it is, and just go, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that differently. What would I have rathered? What would I have rather said? What would I like to have done differently? How am I going to show up? And then do it. Do it in your mind. Do it with your children. Invite them to do it. Invite them after a negative experience to say, do you want to do a redo? If you have someone that you can't have conversations with, that there's just no growing with them, do it yourself. Watch it make a difference. Watch it make a difference. Doing it all by yourself. Because relationships, are like they're a oneness, right? There's like a cord in between. So if I'm tugging on my side of the cord and I'm moving stuff, there's no possibility that there won't be a shift somewhere else in the relationship. Now, it might not be as much as if both sides are moving. But there is a shift. Can we be accountable? The second is, can we be responsible? Can we be responsible for what we create and what we project onto others? Because it is common, it is fine, it is okay, it is normal, it is ordinary in life to feel like we're a victim of it, to blame, project, to find the reasons, to validate our experience, to build up evidence. It's fine, but it doesn't build inner efficacy. It doesn't grow the spiritual practice. What it does is it pays homage to that part that's like, I'm in the passenger seat of my life, and it is awful. And yes, that's the human condition. That's the human experience. A lot of the time, we all have it. Can we instead take that experience into our spiritual practice, nurture it, care for ourselves? But when it comes to activating and being conscious and responsible for our creations, can we look at the 90% of our experience that we can control? The part that we can have an impact in, the part that can make a difference by the way I show up to it, when I acknowledge the truth that two people never experience the same things in the same way, ever. A counselor will tell you what traumatized you as a child is not necessarily going to be traumatic to your child. So don't put your stuff on them. What was hard for you isn't necessarily going to be hard for them. Stop being so scared and stop holding these bombs as if they're going to go off, and just do your practice. Just do your best. Be responsible for what you can be responsible for, right? For how we show up. Let go of projecting, let go of the victim, and focus on what we can create. Parent yourself. Do your own healing work, right? We can't do it for other people. We've got to let other people be themselves, yeah? But we can do our own work. Accountability, responsibility, and mindfulness. Mindfulness is about taking on the spiritual practice. Do we know how to breathe through something rather than hold on? Do we know how to let go and release and to move through? How to use the heart, how to use the breath to not build up discord, not build up resentment, not build up pain, but to approach every moment and allow ourselves to bring in the fullness of Godness and breathe through it. Spiritual practice. The 5 principles. Spirit within me, spirit within all. One power and one present, the law of mind action. Meditation, affirmation, and prayer. Knowing these truths is not enough, but we need to act on them. Can I take on that practice and have mindfulness around it? Can I have mindfulness that we're born blessed, that we're born fine the first time? Can I lead with that? Do I treat myself like that's true? Or do I have more healing work to do around that? And then mindful action. There was a part in the film that I saw last night where one person was calming another person down, and they were talking about, an experience that was very scary, and it had to do with rock climbing, and it was like, oh, how am I going to do that? Oh, I could fall, And the advice given was focus on the 3 feet in front of you. Can I be present? Can I be present to the 3 feet in front of me? Even though I have another eye on the target, another eye on the goal, can I be present to what's right in front of me? In old scripture, the translation for sin, it came from an archery term of missing the mark. Missing the mark. It wasn't about some big, bad, awful thing. It was like we missed the mark. And don't we miss the mark sometimes? Our humanity nearly always misses the mark. But our divinity has the ability to go straight to headquarters. We have the ability to focus on the bow that's right in front of us, the arrow that's right there, and to see a target with an intention. And to breathe into that moment, to trust that God, the grand overall design, is all that space in the middle. All that space here, all that space there. And focus on what is ours to do. Khalil Gibran wrote these words, "Your children are not your children. They are sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And although they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they may have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bow from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark on the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even he, and as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves the bow that is stable. Let our stability be in our divinity. Namaste.